Welcome to Simplify Science Selects Lecture 12.1, Eco-Logos. We have a picture here from the comic XKCD. We have a quote, "After 2 days in the desert sun, my skin began to turn red. After 3 days in the desert fun, I was looking at a riverbed. And the story it told of a river that flowed made me sad to think it was dead." Much better in song form from the band America, Horse with No Name. Our learning goals: explain how organisms interact in larger systems and defines level of organization up to biomes. We already know the characteristics of populations change over time. We know adaptations that are beneficial can give adaptation survival. In the lab, we looked at how organisms are related to each other, how there's interactions, and changes in one parts can affect others. Now, the word ecology comes from the Greek word oikos, which means house. So oikos is where we get the eco from. So ecology is the study of how organisms interact with each other. The analogy is how members of a household rely and interact with each other. So there are levels. Just like we know that organisms are organized in levels, that molecules come together to form cells, cells come together to form tissues, tissues come together to form organs, many organs make organ systems, which come up to make the entire organism. The organisms participate as parts of a whole. So the organism is only one part of the larger world around them. So if you take all the organisms and put all the group of organisms together, you make a population. All these different populations come together to make a community. Different communities together make an ecosystem, and all the ecosystems come together to make the entire biosphere. A population is defined as a group of the same species that lives together in the same area. The group of individuals regularly interbreed. They're all of that type that live in that area. The community is groups of different species that live together. So a community is a group of populations. The species generally have similar responses to changing environmental conditions. They're all together in that area. The ecosystem is when you combine together the biotic and the abiotic factors. So this is the community, all living organisms, as well as climate, water, rock, soil, all the other factors that aren't living. Different types of ecosystems we define as different biomes. There's all kinds of different ones across Earth. We have tundra, taiga, mountain, mixed deciduous forest, tropical forest, steppes, savanna, desert, Mediterranean. These different biomes are largely defined by what kind of plants you can find there and what is the climate there. And so if you look at different types of tundra across the world or different kinds of savanna across the world, you'll see a lot of similarities there. A developing question: create a graphic organizer of the levels of organization in ecology. Some kind of visual representation to help keep them all together. There's not a right answer to this question. Something that brings it all together, makes it make sense. Maybe you made something circular, or maybe you made some kind of grid shape or some kind of pyramid thing that helps you understand how one is made out of the others and what direction it goes in. Dramatic changes to which level of ecology result in a threat to the greatest number of species? Well, the higher the level of organization, the greater threat to the most number of species. I mean, at the organism level, we're only looking at one species. At the biosphere level, we're looking at all species on Earth. Okay, a mastery level question. A donkey and a horse are members of different species that can interbreed. What is the most specific ecological organization level horses and donkeys belong in? Well, there's a little bit of interpretation here. It depends on how you interpret them as being either in the same population or in the same community. Well, mules are sterile. So donkeys and horses, are they the same species? No, I guess not technically. And if they're not the same species, it can be the same population. So must be a community. There are two different kinds of factors, biotic factors and abiotic factors. If we look at biotic, we're talking about, biology, all the living factors, grass, predators, the animals, the bugs, the plants. Abiotic is all the non-living factors, soil, sunlight, water, minerals, heat, all that stuff. Biodiversity refers to the variation, how many different biotic factors and abiotic factors. So if you have larger variation in those factors, then you have larger biodiversity. Some areas see more biodiversity than others. Sometimes a species has a disproportionately large impact on their ecosystem, and if they were to show up in a new place or disappear from an old place, it can be a very dramatic change for what's going on in that area. These are called keystone species. Keystone refers to, in an arch, it's the stone that's in the very middle. If you remove that stone, the entire arch comes crumbling down. Keystone species are often predators that keep populations in control and keep the balance, but not necessarily. They're not necessarily the top predator either. They could be somewhere in the middle, but their presence is very important. A developing level question. List abiotic factors that can determine what type of life can inhabit an area. Which of these factors can be influenced by humans, meaning anthropogenic? Well, there's a lot of factors here. Could be the presence of different type of soil, could be the amount of water available, and really all kinds of factors are affected by humans. There may not be much water available until we dam up a river and we create a large lake, and now we've vastly changed the amount of water available, for example. The proficient question, which species is likely to be the keystone species for this food web? Well, your answers could vary here. I don't know, maybe the bird there in the middle that's keeping the grasshoppers and locusts under control. Because if you didn't keep that population under control, they could destroy all of the plants and shrubs. Now, remember we're talking about a keystone species. All species are related to each other. They all interact. So, losing any of them would be a problem. But, some of them are more significant than others, the problems. A mastery level question. The biodiversity has generally increased over time. What might cause the 5 precipitous drops shown in the fossil record? Well, these 5 were mass extinctions. The 5 mass extinctions we've seen in the past were associated with large climate and large environmental changes. Some people theorize that we're coming up on a 6th mass extinction due to human-caused climate change.